everybody, and welcome to the Penelope Possum channel with me, your hostess, Penelope the Possum. As you see, we've got quite the assortment of Dr. Bob videos to enjoy on this lovely, spooky, scary Saturday. Because, of course, we always love Dr. Bob. He's always great. I'm back. Sorry about that. Anyways. Oh, shoot. I almost forgot the most important bit. Hello! We're just, writing all these down into a text file so I don't forget any of the links. Today we've got 5 Dr. Bob videos. Mostly because we haven't done this in a while. So yeah, let's get to it.
The man staples a missing poster to the telephone pole, his hands shaking. It's one of hundreds he's put up today, and to the untrained eye, it raises a frightening question. Why would someone be putting up a missing poster with his own face on it? The most important person in the world to this man has vanished without a trace. No phone call, no note, not a single shred of evidence, just gone. In due time, this man will find the person he's looking for, but in a way, he'll wish he hadn't.
Okay.
But to solve the mystery, first
yes, the Bob
we need
man.
to go back
we
to the
love
beginning.
Bob.
Despite being identical twins, the two brothers have always been as different can be. One has a talent for sports and athletics, the star of his Little League team as a child, and now an avid competitor in local marathons. The other prefers indoor activities like playing video games, reading, and drawing comics. One is an avid meat eater, and the other a vegetarian since the two went on a field trip to a farm at 10 years old. They may have the same face, but their personalities, the way they dress, and the distinct lion tattoo on the athletic twins' arm guarantee that no one could ever confuse them for one another. But their differences haven't...
I mean, that's kind of usually how identical twins work. Like, they're not exact opposites all the time, but they are their own people. They just happen to look alike.
stopped them from being close. Even after 25 years of being brothers, they still talk every day while enjoying the one thing they both can agree on: coffee. The two brothers are enjoying their weekly Saturday morning coffee at their favorite local coffee shop when the athletic brother asks the artistic brother if he's heard of the new fast food place in town. It's a burger joint, and apparently they're giving away free meals as part of a promotion to celebrate their opening and bring in new customers. The athletic brother intends to take advantage of the deal later that day when he grabs lunch. The artistic brother isn't particularly interested, but asks his brother to let him know if the fries turn out to be any good. They finish their coffees, go their separate ways, and the artistic brother thinks nothing more of it. That is, until the next day rolls around and he hasn't heard from his brother since...
Uh-oh. So the athletic brother has gone missing, and the last place he was known to be is a restaurant. Hey, boy.
Coffee.
Dude's dead.
It isn't completely unheard of, but still enough to send up a small red flag in the man's head. He shoots his brother a text, lighthearted but still concerned. Did the burger give you the runs or something? You okay? Another day passes, and still nothing. Now he's getting worried. He even calls his brother's girlfriend to check in, and his stomach drops when she admits that she hasn't seen him since Saturday. That does it. Something is wrong. He drives to his brother's house and sees that the driveway is empty. The lights are off. Nobody's home. He scrambles to come up with his next steps. The police aren't likely to take him seriously with no signs of foul play. From an outside perspective, it looks like his brother just decided to take a trip without telling anyone. But he wouldn't do that. He'd let his loved ones know first so that they wouldn't worry.
Okay.
The artistic twin feels his head spinning, his thoughts beginning to spiral toward the worst-case scenario. No, he can't let despair overtake him. He needs to keep a clear head. If only there was some way to track his missing twin. Wait, That's it. The two brothers had switched on location tracking on their phones several months prior, and they should still be sharing locations. If his brother still has his phone, then he'll be able to find out where he is. The app shows that his brother's phone is currently in a nearby town about 2 hours away. Better get moving, and fast. The sooner he can get to the bottom of this maybe missing persons case, the better. Maybe it'll all turn out to be a big misunderstanding and everything will be okay. He can only hope. But in spite of his hopes, when he arrives at the location where his brother's phone is supposedly waiting, there's no sign of him. He spots his brother's car abandoned on the side of the road, the door still unlocked. His phone is sitting on the driver's seat, left behind with the vehicle. His stomach turns as the dread washes over him. Leaving town unexpectedly.
Shoot, that's not a good idea. This is bad. Dude's probably
is one
dead.
thing, but his brother would never leave his car and his phone like this, not unless something terrible happened. The man scans his surroundings in a panic, searching for any clue as to where his brother might have gone.
Belly Bill.
Nothing. There's nothing here but a fast food place. But wait, maybe someone inside saw something. One of the workers or the customers. It's a bit of a long shot, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah?
He shoves open the door and rushes inside, where the employee at the counter greets him with a wide, somewhat vacant smile.
That's not unusual. That is not at all unusual. Like, I'm sorry to say, the vacant smile is not really worth noting.
He asks her if she's seen a man who looked just like him, but she shakes her head. She hasn't seen anyone except for their customers all day. Speaking of which, would he like to try a burger and drink for free? Special new promotion. The man declines, grimacing at the inhumanity of offering a fast food deal to someone clearly in so much distress. For a moment, he thinks he sees her smile falter, betraying a glint of cold, hard cruelty in her eyes beneath the veneer of friendliness. But just as soon as he sees it, it's gone, and the smile is locked back in place. This place is giving him the creeps. He'll use the restroom quickly, then get back out there and continue the search for his brother. Time is of the essence. In the bathroom, he splashes a bit of cold water on his face, letting the slight sting bring him back into his body as panic threatens to disassociate him from it. Gotta stay focused so he can keep looking. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he spots it. No, it can't be. But it is. There, on the wall of the bathroom stall, is a dead...
That is the brother's tattoo from earlier. The geometric lion tattoo. Okay. So, I'm not sure what happened here. I'll be completely honest. Did the restaurant eat him? This stinks of fey trickery.
Dead ringer for his brother's lion tattoo. It's faded, barely noticeable, but it's definitely there. He calls the police, but there's nothing they can do. After all, there's no way to definitively tie his missing brother to this fast food restaurant. A lion design and a free burger are hardly enough to build a case, but he knows deep down that they had something to do with it. And he isn't the only one. His case catches the attention of the SCP Foundation, and they began looking into the restaurant chain. They even assign it an official designation, SCP-2789. SCP-2789 is a fast food restaurant franchise by the name of Beef Belly Bill's. It serves lunch and breakfast, and each instance of SCP-2789 includes fully operational fryers, grills, soda, and ice cream machines. Whenever an instance of SCP-2789 first...
But are the ice cream machines functional?
appears, it will integrate itself into nearby plumbing and electrical lines by extending pipes and wires that connect themselves to the nearest system. This is not the only strange thing that happens whenever a new Beef Belly Bill's opens, but you probably gathered that from context clues. When an instance appears, there will be at least 4 staff members inside. Though these staff appear to be human, they cannot be removed from the premises even by force and will refuse to leave even after the restaurant has closed for the day. When an instance of SCP-2789 is destroyed, the staff will dissolve into piles of tissue and bodily fluids.
Ew.
This may sound gruesome, but it is far from the most disturbing aspect of SCP-2789.
Oh,
The
really?
true horror of SCP-2789 revolves around the promotional deal that 30 random people in the proximity of the anomalous restaurant will be selected for each year. The process by which these individuals are chosen is still unknown, but each of them are offered a free burger with their choice of drink. It sounds a bit too good to be true. And that's because it is. After several missing persons cases were linked to...
There's no such thing as a free lunch, kids, no matter what. Someone pays for it in the end.
Beef belly bills. Specifically regarding the victims receiving this promotional deal, the foundation assigned agents to monitor the activity at several of the restaurants. When an individual was selected for this deal, the agents would track their whereabouts and monitor their condition from a distance. The first few people offered the deal declined it, and nothing of note happened. But then, one individual, a middle-aged woman in Northern California, accepted. 5 hours after consuming her burger and soda, she left for home, got into her car, and drove to a city over an hour away. She seemingly had not planned on this trip ahead of time and was seized with a sudden, inexplicable urge to drive to the city. Foundation agents would later note that the city she drove to did not have a local Beef Belly Bills franchise. At the time, that didn't seem relevant, but the significance of this detail would soon become tragically clear. The agents watched as the woman exited her car and walked to the corner of a busy street. She suddenly clutched at her chest and collapsed to the ground as if from a heart attack.
Oh, I see what's happening. I see what's happening. Okay. So it seems like through some fuckery shit that eating the food offered at these restaurants will turn you into the restaurant. So that guy's brother turned into the restaurant he had visited, and that's why his lion tattoo was in the bathroom.
Happened next? Well, it gets a bit complicated. None of the agents assigned to follow the woman could remember what they saw, nor did their recording equipment manage to capture any video or audio of the incident. Instead, their cameras only recorded static interspersed with images of the Beef Belly Bills logo. All the agents remembered was seeing the woman collapse, and then, as if it had suddenly appeared from nowhere, there was a new Beef Belly Bills where her body had fallen. Where did she go? Where did the restaurant come from? Why couldn't they, or any other civilians in the area, remember what had happened? That same day, analysis of the material taken from the site of a demolished Beef Belly Bills franchise came back from the lab, and a gruesome picture began to come together.
Yeah.
Structural components taken from an instance of SCP-2789 found traces of bone marrow and spinal fluid, as well as human epidermis being used as insulation for electrical wires. They even found an enlarged human brain hidden in the walls of the restaurant. DNA testing of this material matched a man who had gone missing a few towns over from the place where the restaurant had appeared. DNA analysis of material taken from this new restaurant revealed that it was a match for the woman from California. With this new information, the Foundation research team was able to make enough educated guesses to put together an outline of the process by which SCP-2789 instances form. Once a person has consumed their free burger and become possessed by the urge to travel to a nearby city, they are given the designation SCP-2789-2.
Oh dear.
Upon reaching their destination, SCP-2789-2 will experience something like congestive heart failure. Then, their body will begin to rapidly increase in mass until it has reached a height and width of approximately 4 meters. At this point, now that they are large enough, the victim's tissues and bodily fluids will begin to transform into materials commonly found in SCP-2789, such as wiring, countertops, tables, and chairs. If there are any buildings in the way, they will be absorbed into the structure. Some of the buildings that SCP-2789 has been observed to bond with have included grocery stores, churches, gas stations, and libraries. The brains recovered from SCP-2789 instances still give off electrical impulses, indicating that the humans transformed into these
No, that's awful. They're still alive? Dude, that's... Eesh. Oh, that's some kind of level of hell. Turned into a freaking living building. That... No. Oh my god, that's awful. Holy
restaurants may
guacamole,
still
Batman.
be alive. How aware they are of their condition, if they are aware of anything at all, still remains to be seen.
We'll hope...
It is uncertain where the staff inside of the restaurant...
We'll hope for our own sanity here, let's just imagine they're completely unaware of what's happening to them or what has happened to them, and they're just in a nice dream. They're dreaming about puppies and kittens and duckies and all that nice stuff. Just so my brain doesn't break today.
Restaurants come from, though analysis of the organic material they leave behind upon destruction of the building always matches the DNA of the rest of the structure. Following the initial discovery of the anomaly, the SCP Foundation began tracking SCP-2789 activity. When a new instance popped up in Colorado, a researcher was dispatched to conduct interviews with the staff in order to shed more light on the nature of the anomaly.
This guy looks familiar.
First, the researcher, whose name has been redacted from the file and who therefore I shall refer to as Researcher B, for Burger, spoke to an employee of the SCP-2789 instance.
How creative,
The employee
Bob.
issued the standard greeting at the sight of Researcher B. "Hi, welcome to Beef Belly Bills. How may we help you today?" Researcher B responded with a request for information. When did the restaurant first get to the area? The employee smiled vacantly and said, "We officially opened for business yesterday, of course. Would you like to try our BLT burger? And for just $3.99, you can make it a combo." Researcher B declined and asked for clarification. The when was established, but how did the restaurant get there? And how did it pop up so quickly? The employee shook their head and shrugged. "I'm sorry." Their voice was chipper but a bit hollow, like a computer spitting out a pre-programmed line. "If you have questions about our company, you'll have to speak to the CEO. He's the life of the company. I hope he's able to help you. Here at Beef Belly Bills, customer service is our top priority."
CEO.
The mention of a company CEO piqued Researcher B's interest. There had been reports of a mysterious older man at various SCP-2789 instances who claimed to be the CEO and founder of the company. Descriptions of the man varied, with only a few constants. The man always wore a suit and always had a large mustache. Perhaps there was some truth to these claims. "I don't suppose you'd be able to contact your CEO and ask him to come here, could you?" The cashier shook their head. The CEO, they said, comes and goes as he pleases. No one could tell him what to do, least of all a lowly cashier. As Researcher B was preparing to leave, the cashier called out to him. "Oh, I almost forgot to ask. We have a special offer today. Would you like a free burger with your choice of drink?" Researcher B had been looking into SCP-2789 long enough to know what that meant, and to know what would happen if he ate that burger. He refused the offer and prepared to exit the building. As he did, the cashier became distressed, face turning red, and shouted at Researcher B for being ungrateful for not accepting his gift. But who was he? Were they referring to Researcher B or to this legendary CEO and founder? They couldn't be certain, but Researcher B had his own personal suspicions. 30 minutes after the interview was conducted, Foundation operatives raided the SCP-2789 instance and evacuated all
could you
customers.
imagine, like, just sat down in a restaurant you've never seen before, but looks good enough, right? Like just a random fast food burger joint. Then all of a sudden, military-looking guys bust in and tell you to get out. That would be crazy.
The employees refused to leave, and when some operatives attempted to remove the employees by force, they vanished and reappeared in the restaurant's kitchen. With no other option,
That
the
one's
Foundation
here looks
proceeded
like
with the
lettuce.
demolition process,
Well.
destroying the building, but not before grabbing the burger and drink previously offered to Researcher B for testing. After the building was destroyed, the food and drink samples were tested and found to contain traces of human blood, mucus, and bone marrow in both the sauce of the
Ew.
burger and the drink itself. Though they had not gotten much
Gross.
information on the nature of SCP-2789, the Foundation had learned something. Whoever the mysterious old man designated SCP-2789-1 was, the staff answered to him. He could be in charge of the whole operation if he truly was the founder. Agent R stands for redacted, just a bit of Foundation humor, traveled to an SCP-2789 instance in Washington to attempt an interview with the founder, perhaps the famous Beef Belly Bill himself. Agent R found the mustached man sitting at a table inside the establishment, drinking a milkshake. When asked for an interview, he agreed. Agent R asked the man to detail his involvement with the anomaly. He responded, "I'm the CEO of this fine company. Beautiful, isn't it?" Agent R couldn't quite bring himself to agree. He replied, not a fan of the way the restaurant franchises were being constructed. You know, sacrificing innocent human lives and warping their bodies into organically derived fast food restaurants. The founder laughed at this and said, "Well, I'm afraid to have a successful business in this day and age, you'll have to make sacrifices."
Okay.
I expected someone from your foundation to know that. Agent R
What?
made sure to keep his face stoic, but privately, he was shocked. How did this man know about the foundation? More
Uh-oh.
importantly, what did he know about it? He deflected the comment, keeping the focus on Beef Belly Bills. The founder went along with it. "Oh, of course, of course. Here I was sitting in my office one fine day and I thought, what if I could increase the number of restaurants in my business at no cost and increase production also at no cost? Sure, there are some morally or ethically questionable things." Here, Agent R interjected, raising his voice. "The deaths of hundreds just to increase production?" The founder cleared his throat loudly to cover the sound of Agent R's voice, then continued speaking, chest puffed out with pride. "But ultimately, it's all worth it to increase my business.
Wow.
Every person who accepts my gift is a
Wow. That's crazy, dog. Completely flabbergasted right now. Damn.
hero, a sacrificial lamb to further something far greater than themselves. It's not like the old days where someone would offer you a human sacrifice to help you along. No, the world has changed, and I've adapted along with it. After all, I am the life of the company." These words, Agent R had heard them before. He spoke up. "Your employees say the same thing, word for word. What exactly does that mean?" Rather than answer the question, the founder finished his milkshake, loudly sucking ice cream, if it really was ice cream, through the plastic straw. When he was finished, he gave Agent R a wink and simply said, "That's
Yeah.
a company secret." Then he stood up, tossed his empty cup into a trash can, and excused himself to go to the restroom. As soon as he was alone, Agent R called for MTF Unit Chi-17 to come and detain SCP-2789-1.
Yeah.
However,
Makes me
when
not
the
want
unit
you
arrived on the
either.
scene, the founder was nowhere to be, well, found. The instance of SCP-2789 was promptly destroyed, and the location and containment of SCP-2789 was made a top priority. They couldn't be sure why he knew about the Foundation, but they needed to find out as soon as possible, and by any means necessary. Any instances of SCP-2789 that are discovered must immediately be destroyed in order to prevent them from spreading. The aforementioned MTF Chi-17, Cross Country, is assigned to locating instances as soon as they pop up. They accomplish this by monitoring social media and other available mediums and searching for any signs of SCP-2789. At this moment, the Foundation has still not been able to contain SCP-2789-1, but members of MTF Chi-17 have been advised to attempt to contain him whenever the opportunity arises. A standard humanoid holding cell has been prepared for the occasion, though I have my doubts about its ability to hold this mysterious fast food mogul. I don't mean to cast aspersions on the research team and their choices, but everything I have observed about this man indicates that he does not abide by the laws of nature, nor should he be assumed to be the ordinary man that he appears to be.
Yeah, okay, so my thought here is that this guy is some kind of god. Why do I think this? A few reasons. First off, nobody can agree what he looks like. Like, there's two constants and everything else is different. Kind of sounds otherworldly and godlike to me. I don't know. I think he's some kind of old god from like ye olden days of like Zeus and them. Or some kind of demon. Whatever he is, he needs human sacrifices to continue living, I guess. It's even made more suspicious by the fact he said something about it's not like the olden days where you can just get people to give you a human sacrifice anymore. Implying people are giving him human sacrifices before, like the deities of old, like, I can't think of the names of them, but like the Mayan gods. Burger Demon, Lel, yeah. Whatever that thing is, it is no man. And I don't think it can be contained.
When reading the interview with SCP-2789-1, I was struck by the man's mention of human sacrifice. He referred to it as a commonplace practice in the old days, something that has gone out of style with time and forced him to adapt to the new way of doing things. While it is obvious to anyone paying attention that this man is no ordinary fast food mogul, I have been developing my own personal theory regarding his true nature. He is an elder god of sorts, to borrow
the
language of cosmic horror, an ancient, powerful being that requires human sacrifice in one form or another. Once, they were offered to him. Now he hunts them with an offering of a free meal, transforming their bodies into tools to spread his influence across the nation, and perhaps the world. I don't know where Beef Belly Bill, as I've taken to calling him, came from, nor do I know what his grand design is, if he has one beyond endless continuous growth at the expense of countless human lives. I only know that he cannot be allowed to continue unchecked. Somehow he must be stopped. In the meantime, we would all do well to remember the old saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
I said that at the beginning of the video! Man, me and Dr. Bob must be on the same wavelength, I swear.
Dr. Bob Patreon and become a junior researcher today. Now go and watch another entry from the files of Dr. Bob, like SCP-1352, Sentient Dust Devil. It is just another day in Charleston, West Virginia, and the worker is clocking in.
I thought it was a different Charleston. I was like, huh. No, West Virginia. I shouldn't be surprised. There's probably multiple Charlestons throughout the United States.
For his shift at the chemical factory. As he slides his punch card, hearing the click that signifies the beginning and end of most of his days, he lets out a sigh of resignation. This isn't really the life he had imagined for himself as a boy, but it's a union job, and the pay isn't bad, so it's all worked out okay in the end. He doesn't love the smell, but there are worse jobs out there. It does get a bit monotonous, though. The same old thing day in and day out. Nothing ever changes around here. At least, nothing ever changed until now. As he walks to his usual station, the worker stops and does a double take. There's a workplace safety poster pasted in the entryway, one that he's seen every workday for the past 5 years. In all that time, the text never changed, but today, it's different.
West Virginia
the reminder to
really
always wear
ones?
safety goggles and gloves has vanished, replaced with an illustration depicting a bowl of fruit. The text now reads, the recommended daily amount for vitamin C is 75 milligrams a day for women and 90 milligrams a day for men. Make sure to eat your fruit. It's yummy, too. The worker pauses for a moment, squinting in confusion. That's odd. Management has never given dietary advice before. Seems strange to start now. But maybe there's some new employee health initiative he doesn't know about. He shrugs and continues inside. But
I predict this man's going to wish he never hoped for any kind of change in his daily work life.
As he enters the factory, he realizes right away that something is wrong. No one is working. None of the machinery is operating. Everyone is just standing around, speaking feverishly to one another. He taps one of the other workers on the shoulder, asking what everyone is so upset about. The man explains that one of the machines stopped working, so they tried to perform a repair, and when they opened it up, well, it'll be easier just to show him. When the worker's eyes fall on the open machine, he can scarcely believe what he's seeing. What was once a collection of metal parts, wheels, and gears performing specialized functions, is now cubes of Swiss cheese and slices
that looks wicked!
Of tomato. What is this? Some kind of joke? No one at the factory is willing to confess to playing the bizarre prank, one that will cost them all a day's worth of pay if it isn't fixed soon. One worker runs to grab the manual for the equipment, but when he brings it over to the crowd, they find that all of the diagrams regarding the machinery are gone. Instead, the book is filled with nutritional information, recommendations of achieving a balanced diet, and a collection of 20 simple and healthy weeknight recipes. While that might be
20 simple and healthy weeknight recipes, that sounds nice.
Useful for someone trying to make a vegetable lasagna, it's pretty much
never mind vegetable lasagna.
For the situation at hand. The workers at this chemical factory don't know, but the same phenomenon is afflicting factories all across town. Vital machinery is transforming into food, and all words printed on site are changing to encourage a healthy, balanced diet.
Well,
assembly lines are halted for the day,
benign.
and workers are sent home as the management of these various factories attempts to uncover what appears to be some sort of grand food-based conspiracy.
This seems relatively benign. Like, this doesn't seem dangerous so far. It just seems...
Until it starts turning other things into food.
I guess? It's very odd just to start off with. But for now, it's just turning machines and non-living objects into food and promoting healthy eating? I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
No one can pinpoint just what is going on. No one, that is, except for a group of kids out of school for the summer who just so happen to be walking along the bank of the Big Coal River in search of something to occupy this beautiful day. While the factory workers are panicking and scrambling for answers, this group of kids suddenly smells something delicious. The aroma wafts along the water, coming from somewhere just around the river bend. Curious, and with grumbling stomachs, the kids follow the smell until they spot its source. A man, or something shaped a bit like one, made entirely from macaroni and cheese. At first, the kids aren't quite sure what to make of this figure. On one hand, they love mac and cheese. But on the other hand, all of their parents have warned them about stranger danger before. No one ever prepared them for the possibility of a stranger made from their favorite food. They're about to give up and run away, writing the whole thing off as some sort of strange lunchtime fairy tale, when the mac and cheese man speaks. "Hi there, kids. Mac and cheese is pretty good, huh?" The kids don't answer, staring in wide-eyed silence.
Oh,
he takes this silence as an invitation to keep talking. "But when we have mac and cheese, it's important for us to make sure we eat our veggies too. Isn't that right, Mr. Broccoli?" He turns and faces the water, staring expectantly. After a moment of silence, something breaks through the surface of the water. Something green. A sea monster? The kids scream, backing away. "Don't be afraid. It's good for you. Look!" As the figure emerges from the water, the kids realize that it isn't a monster after all.
Oh, it's a
figure
broccoli
made
guy.
entirely out of broccoli. The broccoli man opens his mouth to speak, but water pours out instead. He clears his throat, then tries again. "Hey there, don't be scared. It's very important to eat your vegetables." The broccoli man walks.
This whole thing reads like a very strange after-school thing. Like, this feels very much like an after-school special gone terribly wrong.
Toward the mac and cheese man and climbs onto his shoulders as the kids watch, dumbfounded. They hear footsteps coming from behind them and turn to see even more piles of food shaped like people. One looks like applesauce, and one looks like peanut butter. One of the kids lets out a blood-curdling shriek at the sight. She's allergic to peanuts and left her EpiPen at home. The kids run away from the river as fast as their feet can carry them, leaving the food people standing by the water, sad and confused. When they get home, The kids feverishly tell their parents what they saw that day. Several of them are surprised by the reaction. Their parents believe them. They have similarly strange stories from their days at work and can all agree that something very, very strange is going on in town. After a few calls to the authorities, which are initially written off as pranks, word of this anomalous food-based activity reaches the SCP Foundation. Agents are quickly dispatched to the area to investigate, and along the bank of the river, they find the food people that the children encountered, all standing on each other's shoulders. One by one, the agents manage to wrangle the food people into a van for transport to the nearest containment facility, but their work is not yet done. The anomalous activity is continuing to spread, turning stop signs to giant pieces of pepperoni and street lamps to bushels of apples and oranges. Whatever is causing all of these changes, it's still in the area. The agents cross to the other side of the river, where an unmarked building stands abandoned and in disrepair. The first thing that the agents notice is the bugs. Swarms of ants and other insects pour out of the building when they open the front door, seemingly drawn by the piles of food scraps strewn across the floor. If they didn't know better, they'd think someone was squatting here and stockpiling food. But they do know better. They've seen the food people with their own eyes. So they aren't too shocked to see more of them huddled inside the ruined building. They are shocked, however, to see just how many of them there are. Almost 24 food people are waiting inside, stacked on top of each other in a pyramid formation. Grains make up the bottom of the pyramid, with fruits and vegetables on top. On top of the produce people, there are a few made from dairy products like cottage cheese, and some made of nuts. On top, there is a single figure made from butter. The agents consider calling for backup, but the food people appear to be peaceful. One by one, the agents disassemble the pyramid, and each of the food people comes with them quietly, climbing into the van.
So, these things seem relatively harmless.
When the building is clear, the agents transport all of the food people back to the nearest Foundation site and get to work on putting out a cover story to the people of Charleston. As far as the people of Charleston, West Virginia know, the food people they saw that day, and every other strange occurrence, was caused by a chemical leak. Chemicals in the Big Coal River caused a variety of unusual effects on the population and produce. That was all, nothing more to worry about. They would never know why they all ended the day with the feeling of a full, satisfied stomach, or why they all had so much energy the next day. And they would never know that their town had been visited by SCP-1630. SCP-1630 refers to a group of 25 anomalous humanoids, each 1.54 meters tall and weighing between 21 and 231 kilograms. Instances of SCP-1630 appear to have intelligence corresponding with the average intelligence of humans between the ages of 20 and 26, and are fully capable of standard human sense and perception. The most unusual aspect of SCP-1630 instances is their physiology. Each instance is made up of an edible substance that is a common mainstay of the human diet, such as fruits and vegetables, cheeses, meats, and grains. What appears to be an instance's clothing is actually part of its body, and is also composed of these edible components. Any damage to the body of an SCP-1630 instance will be healed promptly, at a rate of 1 kilogram of regenerated mass per hour. Their bodies can be damaged by anything that would do damage to the edible substance a given instance is made up of, but they do not appear to decompose or rot at a standard rate. As of today, no instance of SCP-1630 has decomposed or died while in Foundation custody. The instances are capable of speech and communication consistent with their estimated intelligence levels. Every instance of SCP-1630 in Foundation containment has been cataloged, and though I have no interest in reading out the details on all 26 of them, I will provide
attracted to the underside of the stove.
They probably lost a toy beneath the stove.
some highlights for your consideration. The first instance to be contained and cataloged by the Foundation was SCP-1630-01. Its body is composed of raw meat, mainly pork and steak. When spoken to, it has expressed a passionate interest in food-based trivia, particularly pertaining to meat.
Okay.
It has a friendly, talkative disposition and is known to engage staff in rounds of meat-based trivia questions. Foundation staff converse with this instance and participate in its quizzes on a regular basis in order to maintain a congenial
little
relationship
creepy,
and
but-
guarantee the entity's cooperation. SCP-1630-0.
So it is genuinely just a completely, albeit freakish, but harmless anomaly. It's easy to forget that not all of these anomalies are bad. Like, yeah, it was very strange, but these humanoid characters don't seem to have been people. The people of that town weren't affected in any horrific way. It just changed a bunch of stuff in the area. It's very interesting. We haven't had a completely, like, I wouldn't say completely harmless, but mostly harmless SCP in a while.
06 is a being constructed from baked beans, held together by
Baked
joints made from
beans?
pulverized beans to fill in the gaps. It is also coated in a classic sugar-based baked bean sauce, which occasionally drips off of its body and onto the floor of its containment chamber. Sauce is also expelled from the entity's mouth whenever it speaks. This sauce buildup resulted in an infestation of ants in its original containment cell, forcing the Foundation to bring in an exterminator to clear the area. As it turns out, my mother was right to chide me for leaving food in my bedroom growing up. That is, in fact, how you get ants. SCP-1630-06 has been moved to a new containment chamber, which is cleaned regularly to make sure that the insect infestation will not spread or repeat itself. SCP-1630-08 is constructed entirely out of apples. Most of its body is made up of apple slices held together with applesauce. Its clothing is made from strips of
Okay.
apple peel in various colors, primarily red. Notably, the apple slices making up the entity's body have not shown any signs of the usual browning characteristic for sliced apples exposed to air. Whenever spoken to, SCP-1630-08 makes heavy-handed references to the expression, "an apple a day keeps the doctor away." Whenever approached by a doctor, the entity seems genuinely perturbed. SCP-1630-11 is constructed entirely from butter. Because the inside of its mouth is perpetually in a semi-liquid state, it is incapable of coherent speech. However, it is able to communicate via American Sign Language. Where it learned sign language, it will not say. Several Site-77 personnel fluent in American Sign Language have been assigned to its containment area so that they can maintain an open line of communication with the anomaly. SCP-1630-13 is made of oatmeal, clumped together into a humanoid formation. Strangely, it is always emitting a small amount of steam, as if the oatmeal has just been freshly prepared. Foundation staff who have skipped breakfast are not permitted to interact with SCP-1630-13, just in case. Requests from this entity for honey, maple syrup, or a sprinkle of cinnamon are to be rejected for obvious reasons. SCP-1630-15 is made up of garlic slices, and its clothing is
garlic
constructed from
slices,
strips of garlic woven together. Unlike other instances of SCP-1630, it has no sense of smell. The same cannot be said for personnel assigned to its containment chamber,
Slices of
though I'd
garlic.
wager a guess that they wish they had the same affliction. Though several staff have recorded becoming nose-blind to it over time, as well as expressing gratitude that they are not assigned to look after an instance made from an even more pungent foodstuff. If you share the same propensity for morbid curiosity as I do, you may be asking yourself, do these beings ever sample their own wares, so to speak? As far as I can ascertain, most of them do not, but there are exceptions. One of these exceptions is SCP-1630-22, which is composed of cottage cheese. Ever since it was first contained, SCP-1630-22 has been observed consuming small portions of itself on a regular basis. It isn't much, usually only a finger here and there, or a small chunk of its arm. When asked about this practice, it simply explained that it enjoys the taste, and the process does not hurt. Still, this habit was cause for some concern on the part of the Foundation, and personnel have been assigned to monitor SCP-1630-22 to to ensure that it does not accidentally eat a bit too much of itself and accidentally self-terminate in the process. As far as I can tell, this is the only instance of SCP-1630 that has been observed participating in this sort of auto-cannibalistic activity, but I hesitate to declare that for certain, given how little we understand these entities. I do have to wonder what could be so appealing about cottage cheese, though. I never feel the impulse to snack on cottage cheese, and I wouldn't even have to sacrifice a finger to do so. But I'm getting off track. Where was I? Right, yes. SCP-1630-24 is made up of peanut butter, specifically the crunchy variety. I imagine a being made of smooth peanut butter would have a bit more difficulty moving and speaking, but the anatomy of these entities is so confounding that I can't say for certain. This instance of SCP-1630 is known for cracking jokes and speaking in non sequiturs. When asked about its sense of humor, notably more present than in other instances, it replied, "I guess I'm just nuts." Aside from accidentally sending a staff member into anaphylaxis during containment, promptly treated with an EpiPen, SCP-1630-24
I mean,
has
it's
caused
made of
no
peanut
notable
butter.
issues.
Anybody who's allergic to peanut
When
butter
more
is
than
in
3
danger,
instances of SCP-1630 are in the same room, they will begin to climb on top of each other and form what I can only describe as a food pyramid. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's classic food pyramid seems to be the inspiration for this formation, as the instances will place themselves in a position matching that diagram, and their corresponding food items place on it. How exactly SCP-1630 learned about the food pyramid remains to be seen. When asked about the pyramid formation and this peculiar behavior, SCP-1630 instances will simply respond that they are fulfilling America's dedication to eat healthy every day. But they don't just enter this pyramid formation and remain there with no anomalous effects. When the instances have reached their intended positions, it will trigger something known as a Delta event. As soon as a Delta event is set into motion, human subjects in the vicinity will experience fullness and contentment as if they have just finished eating a healthy, well-balanced meal. Inanimate materials in the area will transform, maintaining their shape, but changing into an edible version of itself, like something out of a health-conscious Charlie and the Chocolate Factory knockoff. The foods that these items change into depend on the SCP-1630 instances present for the Delta event. Documents, visual or written, will also transform, but not into food. Instead, their content will change to highlight the importance of eating a balanced diet, as well as many reminders to follow the guidance of the food pyramid. The zone affected by the Delta event will spread at a
So
rate
that
of
must
100
have been
meters
why
per
it was
hour.
even
And
doing
this
that in the
progression
first
can only
place.
be stopped by forcibly separating the SCP-1630 instances from one another. All instances of SCP-1630 must be kept in humanoid containment chambers located at Site-77. Their conditions must be climate-controlled depending on the composition of the individual instance and the optimal temperature and moisture level for preserving it. No more than 3 instances of SCP-1630 may be allowed out of containment areas at one time. If a containment breach should occur, security personnel have been authorized to use lethal force to prevent a Delta event.
What lethal
After
force
I
could
first
you
learned of
apply?
SCP-1630, I found it rather charming, if a bit unsanitary. I don't much care for the idea of that much food sitting out, touching the floor and various other shared surfaces all day. But an emphasis on health and nutrition seemed to suggest that SCP-1630 instances have good intentions, execution of those intentions aside. But then, I read the addendum attached to the file concerning
Oh
a
boy, here it
troubling
comes, the other
development.
shoe.
On June 2, 2010, a new instance of SCP-1630 was contained and designated SCP-1630-26. Its composition appears to be sugars, fats, and artificial substances such as flavorings and preservatives. After it was contained, a Delta event was performed with SCP-1630-26 in a controlled, sterile environment. During this event, personnel taking part experienced nausea
dear.
and a phantom sweet taste in their mouths. At the same time, documents throughout Site-77 were replaced by advertisements for various fast food, candy, and other confectionery corporations. Many of these corporations have not yet been confirmed to exist. A couch in the staff break room transformed into a pile of French fries, while the water cooler's contents became thick, syrupy sweet, and artificially colored with the discontinued red food dye. The carpet turned to cotton candy, while tiles in the hallway turned to square hamburger patties. Other transformed items took on the shapes of foods that could not be identified, but that gave off a strong, meaty yet sweet smell that was described simply as artificial. After the conclusion of the Delta event, SCP-1630-26 was moved to another site, and containment procedures for SCP-1630 are pending updates. Since this incident, Site-77's medical staff have expressed concern regarding the elevated cholesterol levels of the on-site personnel, as well as a host of other health problems often attributed to poor diet and vitamin deficiency. Food and nutrition play a vital role in all of our lives. After all, without it, we would cease to live at all. But what forces might create such anomalous food-based beings? I can't wrap my mind around it. None of the instances will reveal where they might have come from, or who might have created them. Were they born inside of that chemical factory in West Virginia? Did their creator sell his technology to some corporation? Perhaps one of those advertised in the SCP-1630-26 Delta event. I don't know.
I like how all of these SCPs in this one are like normal-ish looking humans, except for the one that's made of unhealthy shit.
All I know is that I'm starting to get a bit peckish after thinking about this much food. Whatever they are, wherever they came from, SCP-1630 gives a new meaning to that old adage, you are what you eat. Check out the Dr. Bob Patreon and become a junior researcher today.
Like all of them
Now
have
go and
very
watch another
normal
entry from the
humans.
files of Dr. Bob, like SCP-2450, Teeth. It is a mild evening in Paris, France, and the sound of ticking clocks fills a modest church tucked down a less populous street. From the outside, it looks like any ordinary Christian church, but inside, it is quite different.
Uh-oh.
There are gears and cogs on the walls where stained glass windows
Oh,
might
is this,
ordinarily be
Church
placed,
of the Broken
and the
God?
altar resembles the inner workings of a massive clock. The ticking sound is coming not from any timepieces, but from the congregation themselves. This is a ceremony for
I think this might be a Church of the Broken God.
members of the Cogwork Orthodoxy, an offshoot of the Mechanists, or the Church of the Broken God.
Yep.
The congregation is small, a little less than a dozen in attendance, but they are devout in their faith. A solemn hush falls over the room as the patriarch stands before them, holding a bottle of holy oil. He beckons up each congregant to the altar, where he anoints them with the oil on whatever cogwork augmentation is most easily accessible. Some have visible gears, others limbs made from brass. One man has a clock in the middle of his forehead like a third eye. After all have been anointed, they return to their seats and bow their heads in solemn prayer. Tick,
Ugh.
tick, tick. The sound is rhythmic and constant, like one shared heart thrumming all together.
This is not gonna end
The
well.
sound fills the room, steady as it always has been. But then, the pace changes suddenly, for the very first time. The ticking comes faster now, less like a familiar clock, and more like a bomb ready to go off. It ticks faster, faster, faster. The sound of grinding metal fills the room, interrupting whatever peace remained. The patriarch cries out in pain, holding his chest. His eyes widen, and all of a sudden, his chest explodes, metal fragments
Holy.
flying in every direction. One by one, the rest of the congregation follow, their augmented bodies failing them in a shocking display. Metal legs fuse together, gears grind, spark, and explode. The rifle grafted into one man's arm begins firing at random. An internal combustion engine heart
Cyberpunk.
fails, and a woman collapses to the ground. All the while, the initial explosion has set fire to the old wooden beams of the building. It is all going up in flames. By the time the authorities arrive on the scene, over 50,000 euros of damage has been
this
done
must
to
be
the
a
building.
European
The entire
SCP.
congregation is dead. It doesn't take long for the SCP Foundation to become involved or for them to suspect foul play. The Cogwork Orthodoxy are relatively peaceful and have never been involved in an incident quite like this before. No, someone planned this and executed it meticulously. The question is, how and why?
It's hard to believe any sect of the Mechanists or the Church of the Broken God could be peaceful, but stranger things have happened. Hello?
Following the 2011 incident at the Cogwork Orthodoxy Church, other cases of this mysterious ailment began popping up. The Foundation was able to take several bodies for autopsy, though
I
the means
see.
by which this was accomplished are obscure to me.
Oh, just
They
a
determined
moment.
You had a thing stuck to your face. Hold on, stuck it for me. You still streaming?
Yeah, I just came to give you some love.
that the failure of the victims' bodies and augmentations was caused by a parasitic infestation. Somehow, they had all been dosed with the same contaminated material. But what was the link between these parasites and technological failure on a massive, deadly scale? The
Dang.
clues were scarce, and there was little to point the Foundation in the direction of motive or means, as dozens of deaths were reported. With little else to go on, the Foundation classified the parasites SCP-3859. Whatever their exact nature, they were like nothing anyone had ever seen before. That much was certain, even if nothing else was. They were able to interview a victim after all of the previous infected had died on the scene. Following one of the attacks in Lyon, a Maxwellist was kept alive long enough for the Foundation to conduct an interview. He was able to communicate via writing, but the state of his SCP-3859 infestation rendered him unable to speak, as it interfered with the function of his vocal processors. Rather than transmitting anything he wanted to say, they instead played a continuously looping message in French that translated to,
You are nothing but an engine powered by ignorance. Forsake your superstition, your god of metal, your blind faith that has caused you to suffer. We have created the antivirus for your technological blight, the firewall to cleanse Europe of your influence. You are nothing but a flaw in history, and we shall cut you out. Vive la rationalité. Vive l'atheisme.
The message continued to play until the subject's artificial pineal gland was destroyed, killing him. After this incident, the trail went cold for about a year. More cases turned up, but they brought no information. Then, a surprising development broke it all wide open, tipping over the first card that would bring the entire house down. In late 2015, French parasitologist Frédéric Lacroix was checked into the hospital after his pacemaker failed. While he was being examined, unusual parasites were found in his system. They had somehow eaten away most of his pacemaker, and it failed after 3 days of intensive care. But there was something that set Lacroix apart from other victims of the parasite that the Foundation was beginning to call SCP-3859. He was a staunch atheist. In fact, he was so opposed to organized religion that he had previously been arrested after fighting with a priest in his hometown of Orléans. So what, the Foundation wondered, made him the exception to the rule? Why did the parasites choose him as their first non-religious target? Surely his field of research being parasitology couldn't be a coincidence. They decided to dispatch a team to investigate more thoroughly. Agent Catherine Dubois led a mobile task force operating under the cover story that they were national police officers investigating Lacroix's death. They went to Lacroix's house, attempting to uncover any clues that might indicate his connection to SCP-3859. After Lacroix's widow granted them access to the house, they began a thorough search. In his bedroom, they uncovered a large book entitled The Holy Bible, with commentaries by C.I. Schofield and a guide to Bible study. This struck them as odd, given his atheist leanings, and one of the officers picked it up. It was partially hollow and rattled when shaken. They opened the book and tipped its contents out onto the desk. This would prove to be a mistake, as the desk promptly burst into flames. It had been booby-trapped. Luckily, the task force moved quickly and was able to salvage most of the documents contained within before the fire could consume them. They also put out the fire without alerting the widow Lacroix. But when the task force
Good.
reached the door, they found more officers waiting there. These strangers also claimed to be from the National Police, but the MTF smelled something fishy, and it wasn't the widow Lacroix making bouillabaisse. There was no
Ooh,
way
yummy.
these officers were National Police. They held Rugers when the National Police were known to carry SIG Pros. No, these were not cops. The MTF had to get out of there, and fast. They ran out the back of the house and commandeered a vehicle from a, let's say, somewhat willing civilian. As they drove away, gunfire ricocheted off the body of the car. The enemy officers were in pursuit, and they teleported their car in front of the MTF in an attempt to
what
cut
the
them off.
frick?
With the assistance of MTF Omega-5, the Jewelers, the task force was able to evade this enemy force. They were also able to connect the weapons and technology to an existing group of interest. They seemed to be affiliated with Rubus, or Recovery, Use, Bellicosity, and Inhibition of Singularities. A deeper look revealed Lacroix's true allegiance. He was a member of Saphir, a militant atheist organization dedicated to wiping out religious organizations worldwide. This was the French branch. The English branch is known as Sapphire. One of the documents recovered from Lacroix's home revealed this allegiance, titled A Brief Manifesto Against the Mechanite Superstition and How to Topple It. They described followers of the Mechanite faith as people who look human, but their hearts beat to the tune of clockwork. Their breath is the humming of a computer fan, and their muscles bulge with carbon fibers, the likes of which we can only hope to develop. Some of them even go so far as to replace their pineal glands, an organ often associated with the superstitious world. The manifesto lamented the inability of Saphir pamphlets to deprogram Mechanites, people so devoted to their faith that they would change their bodies permanently. But this faith, in the words of the manifesto, would derive their doom. This is where the development of SCP-3859 comes in. In October of 2010, a Mechanite was found and disassembled by Rubus agents. Whether they were alive or not during this process, I could not determine. In this Mechanite's body, Rubus agents found an organic interface virus, or a virus created from nanotechnology. In short, an OIV is like a computer virus made material, made into something that can infect a human body. This virus was intended to respond to strong Mechanite faith and to prevent the organic parts of a person's body from rejecting their new inorganic modifications. But programming can be rewritten, and Saphir was determined to find a way to reverse the purpose of this OIV and cause it to reject these inorganic components. However, they ran into one problem. The virus would not interact directly with the human body. It was engineered for the specific Mechanite it was found in and did not take to other human subjects. But then Dr. Lacroix discovered an ingenious solution. The dead Mechanite was not just full of technological augmentations, they were also infested with hookworms who had been infected with the OIV. He took these hookworms and created a new species named Ancylostoma nedludi, named for the Luddites who destroyed technology deemed evil. The manifesto closed with a goal. By the close of 2015, we expect to eliminate any Mechanite influence on the continent.
Well, it looks like, looks like this guy intended to kill a bunch of pretty harmless robot people and ended up killing himself.
So Dr. Lacroix created SCP-3859, but he also wound up in a hospital bed, dying as a result of his creation. As one mystery was solved, another revealed itself. What went wrong? The plot only thickened as more Saphir agents died in the wake of Lacroix's death. 6 in total perished from an infestation of SCP-3859. Each was killed when their metal tooth fillings exploded, causing fatal brain hemorrhaging. We know the devastating impact that it has had. Some know it all too well, but what exactly is SCP-3859? The Foundation was able to determine a bit about its nature. It is a microscopic parasite that has been infected with an OIV. This particular OIV results in nanotechnological augmentations to the parasite. It is in the same genus as Old World hookworm, but is hermaphroditic rather than dioecious, setting it apart from most hookworms. It also, closer study has revealed, appears to have been hybridized with tardigrade DNA at some point in the prior 200 generations. The function of SCP-3859 in the human body is to infest hosts with artificial components added to their physiology and to destroy them. Again, this is notably different from ordinary hookworms, who do not normally behave in an aggressive fashion or leave the digestive tracts of their hosts. This would suggest that the technological components of SCP-3859 are causing them to act in defiance of their nature. Saphir's aims in creating this augmented parasite are clear, but what is still unclear is what happened next. Why did Lacroix's creation turn on him? What happened? Well, when I first began looking into SCP-3859, it seemed we would never know for sure. But then, Saphir released a statement, along with some formally classified files. I'll save those for later. First, their statement, issued in December of 2015 to all Saphir agents. Effective immediately, all LaCroix hookworms in possession of Saphir are to be destroyed, and the program is to be discontinued. They are acting indiscriminately, affecting atheist and super...
Yeah, they're a parasite. What the freak did they expect? That was only gonna feast on specific people? It's a parasite. Parasites are not discriminant. A parasite will parasite anybody.
superstitious alike. 20 have died from infestation, including LaCroix. LaCroix was a traitor and a mechanist. His rank is stripped, and his name will be wiped from our history. The statement is intriguing and includes some bold claims. The Foundation was not able to find any information linking LaCroix to Mechanism or anything indicating him as some sort of double agent. Therefore, I was thrilled when a former Rubis agent was able to help the Foundation decipher LaCroix's original journal entries, eager to see what light they might shed on the whole matter. Nothing could prepare me for what I learned. Saphir's assertions about LaCroix were wrong, and the truth was so much stranger than anyone could have anticipated, even the SCP Foundation. In his writings, Dr. LaCroix referred to the parasites as his children, an impulse that, though unsettling, I can sympathize with. It is a lonely business locked away with only one's research for the company. His aims with that research, however, I am a good deal less sympathetic to. Using research on the crucifix protein, a protein supposedly found in the brains of the devoutly religious, he modified the hookworms. Whenever they detected the presence of this compound, the parasites would become aggressive and highly destructive. They would seek out anything unnatural added to the human body and tear it apart with gusto. As a test subject, he selected the congregation of a church, one of whom was known to have a pacemaker. A friend of LaCroix's, hiding in plain sight amongst the clergy, spiked the communion wine with parasites on St. Valentine's Day. The experiment was a success, from LaCroix's perspective at least. One poor parishioner dropped dead of a broken heart that Valentine's Day, or at least of an overloaded pacemaker. The next documented experiment was the fateful day of the Cogwork Orthodox service in Paris, the day that the Foundation first discovered the existence of SCP-3859. LaCroix slipped his children into the holy oil, and there were no survivors. On October 12, 2012, Dr. LaCroix received word from Nova Scotia that one of his Saphir colleagues had died. The cause of death? His teeth exploded, and there were signs that the hookworms had made their way into his system. He had been placed there as an aide to a cardinal, while reporting back to Saphir in secret. LaCroix theorized that he had begun to develop a sense of faith, and thus his death was his own fault. By June 17th of the same year, there were no more mechanists left in central France. Sure, a few fringe believers remained scattered through Paris, but most sects that had previously held a strong presence there either fled the country or simply perished. Dr. LaCroix considered himself victorious, but the bodies had not yet finished piling up. By May 4th, 2014, 10 people who worked alongside Dr. LaCroix on the project were dead. Autopsies revealed that all of them had the hookworms in their systems, and they had all recently been in contact with mechanites. Dr. LaCroix theorized that these colleagues had been hacked, and that the reclaimed technology in their bodies had been hacked by mechanite influences that left them vulnerable to the effects of the parasites. A software update would fix it. At least, that's what he thought. An analysis of the software showed no changes at all. Strange. Perhaps an explanation would reveal itself under further scrutiny. On March 7, 2015, Dr. LaCroix began to feel ill. He experienced tremors, sweating, a fever, and persistent vomiting. The containment of his project had failed, and there were hookworms in his system. Not to worry, though. These hookworms wouldn't do much without the crucifix protein being present. He took some of the anti-parasitics kept around at the lab and waited for his symptoms to abate. But on March 15th, he was still feeling ill. It was then that he realized a drastic error he had made. By changing the physiology of the worms and making them hermaphroditic, they were able to reproduce more quickly than the medication could kill them. He checked himself into the hospital for more thorough treatment. After 5 days, the infection had been effectively addressed, and he was ready to recuperate and get back to work. But again, the situation was far worse than he realized. On March 23rd, Dr. LaCroix was working at his desk when he suddenly collapsed to the floor. His heart was seizing up, skipping beats at a time. It was his pacemaker, he realized. Its battery was running out. He would need to go to the hospital as soon as possible to have it repaired. But before he did, he decided to perform a few tests on himself. He took a sample of his blood and analyzed it. What he saw should have been impossible, but nevertheless, there they were, crucifix proteins in his blood, the blood of a staunch non-believer. The worms were feasting. Somehow he had been poisoned with extreme faith. There was no going back. He was going to die at the hand of his own creation. He checked himself into the hospital and was informed by his doctors that there was nothing wrong with his blood except for the parasites present there. His pacemaker, on the other hand, was severely damaged. Its wires had been severed. Dr. LaCroix knew that the hookworms were the culprit and that he had a week left to live at most. But how had the crucifix proteins made their way into his blood? Had someone somehow injected him with a contaminated sample? But no. As much as he wanted to believe that, he knew it was something else. He had examined other blood samples that he kept around the lab for emergency transfusions, samples from dozens of his colleagues. Every single one of them contained the crucifix protein, and it was naturally occurring. No evidence of tampering. There was only one remaining explanation. His ultimate entry I will simply quote verbatim, and let his dying words speak for themselves. The doctor says there's nothing wrong with my blood other than the parasites, and my pacemaker wires have been severed. I maybe have a week left. I feel as if I am committing treason while writing this. I tested samples I keep in my lab for emergency transfusions. All of our blood has the crucifix protein, and it's occurring naturally. We have failed. In our quest to make the world a reasonable place, we have made it a crusade. Saphir is a cult. Atheism is a religion. God help us. Though its use has decreased since 2015, there are still active instances of SCP-3859 on the European continent. As a countermeasure, anti-parasitic drugs have been introduced into the water supply of France and its surrounding nations. A new EU regulation was also lobbied for by several Foundation companies, increasing food safety standards for items such as Eucharist wafers and other consumables used in religious ceremonies. Any Foundation personnel believed to have been infected with SCP-3859 must be administered a cocktail of antiparasitics and anti-OI viral drugs. The exact makeup of this cocktail may be accessed only by approved Foundation medical personnel. Over the course of my time researching the outskirts of the known world, the places beyond our imaginations, I have come face to face with hundreds of belief systems. Some are off-putting, others comforting, and all of them alien to me. The one constant I have seen again and again is this: extremism, the sort that seeks the elimination of all its opponents through whatever means necessary, always sows the seeds of its own destruction. It seems that Dr. LaCroix sowed those very... The investigator can't believe their eyes. The months of searching, the hours...
Well, we'll do the other two on a different day. But that'll be it tonight for the Spooky Scary Saturday stream. Starting to hate wearing headphones. I really am. Starting to consider investing in a nice pair of earbuds because headphones are just really heavy. Oh, I'm sure some of you noticed the new possum. Considering I lost the old one. That's the new guy. His name is Damien. I'll keep an eye out for food, people. You guys keep an eye out for Big Belly Bill's Burger Place, or whatever it was called. Till next time, Tuesday. I'll catch you Tuesday. As long as I don't spontaneously combust. Very cute, thank you. Till next time, stay out of the engine compartment of cars. Stay out of traffic. Stay out of the walls. Stay hydrated. Love you all.